Hello and welcome. Tonight, again, another Kaduna community under terrorist attack. 2 people killed and many taken hostage in Ungwa Bulus village of Chikun local government area of the state. Appeal court upholds defection of Imo State Governor David Mahi and his deputy to the APC, dismisses suit seeking their sack from office. Lekki Construction Company resumes operations at Ikoyi Link Bridge over a year after closure. Channel's television correspondent harassed while filming resumption.
And in international news in London, fears for the peace talks in Ukraine as Russia accuses the country of bombing an oil depot in Belgorod.
And on business news tonight, Niger National Petroleum Corporation confirms its plans to become a fully limited liability company from July the 1st this year.
On sports news tonight, organisers conclude the draw ceremony for the 2022 FIFA World Cup as participating teams discover group stage opponents.
And from the nation's capital, President Muhammadu Buhari receives Microsoft's team at the presidential villa. Says Nigeria is poised for more investments in digital technology.
Kaduna State, in the last 1 week, has been under severe attacks by terrorists who stormed the Kaduna International Airport, killing 2 people. 48 hours after, an Abuja-Kaduna-bound train was attacked and 8 passengers were killed. And the next day, there was yet another attack on the same route. And just as people were coming to terms with all these attacks, Ungwa Bulus community in Chikun local government area was invaded by terrorists, leaving 2 persons dead and an unspecified number of persons kidnapped.
Ungwa Bulus, a sleepy community near Sabon Tasha area of Chikun local government, is on the outskirts of Kaduna metropolis. At about 8 p.m. on Thursday, bandits in large numbers invaded the community, shooting sporadically to scare the residents. And in the process, they shot and killed 2 people while they abducted an unspecified number of persons. Among the kidnapped victims is a woman and her 4 children who were forced out of their home while they were having their dinner. Residents say the bandits operated for about 2 hours without any resistance.
Since I know my daughter is living here in Ungwa Bulus, I called her number. It was ringing, but she was not picking. So that was when my husband said, okay, let him go down to Ungwa Bulus to see exactly what is happening. And that was around after 10 to 11. So when he came, he saw her door wide opened. And the food that we are eating was there on the floor. And all their things were scattered. So he gathered everything. In fact, she even plugged water to bath. And when they took her, she left the heater, and the water was boiling. It was when my husband came that he off the heater.
As it stands, the whereabouts of those kidnapped is yet unknown. But the latest attack has again thrown the community into fear. Many of the residents gather in groups to mourn the killing and abduction of their loved ones, while calling on the government to improve security in the area.
When we are hiding, then I saw we are just hiding for back here. Then some people among them enter here. When they enter here, somebody is asking somebody that, how many people there for this house? I said, my house again, they are asking. Means, is it there is someone that, I said, God, I cannot conclude it, but let your will be done.
We are just waiting for the government to come to our rescue, to help us, because this is no longer the Kaduna State we know. The Kaduna we know is a peaceful land. This thing like it don't happen. But we know that this is not beyond government. They can still do something, they can still see us too.
Kidnapping for ransom is becoming a recurring decimal in Kaduna State. People are being abducted by bandits from their homes, farms, and even roads. And this has consequently led to the residents living in perpetual fear and helplessness.
Meanwhile, 3 states in the north may also be at risk of bandit attacks, going by the words of the General Officer commanding 3 Division of the Nigerian Army, Major General Salau Ali. The Army Chief raised this alarm during a visit to the Bauchi State Governor, Bala Mohammed, to seek his support on military operations in the state.
recently we've been having traces of bandits around the 3 states of Plateau, Taraba, and Bauchi State. And I want to intimate Your Excellency that we are going to be working with all the security agencies around these 3 states to ensure that we bring peace for people so that they can carry out their socio-economic activities as normal for the development of the state and Nigeria in general.
Governor Bala Mohammed expressed his willingness to partner with the army towards achieving security of lives and property in the state.
We are all serving the same boss, that is the Nigerian people, the common people. We thank you for coming on board. Whatever support you need to be able to deal with these insurgents or the resurgence of bandits around this area, we are ready to give you as much as we can.
Staying with security, the Imo State Police says it has foiled an attack on the Mberi Police Division in Mbitolu local government area of Imo State. According to the State Police Command, the attack was attempted by gunmen suspected to be members of the Eastern Security Network. The public relations officer of the command, Mike Abatam, says the gunmen came in large numbers and threw improvised explosive devices into the station while shooting sporadically. He adds that the IEDs and gunshots affected some vehicles parked within the premises and shattered roofs and windows. He notes that the police operatives attached to the division also engaged them, forcing them to retreat. Mberi Police Division is the 5th police station to have come under attack within the last 1 month. To legal matters now, where it's a huge relief for the governor of Ogun State, Dave Umahi, as the Court of Appeal sitting in Enugu today upheld the decision of the Abakaliki High Court bordering on his defection alongside his deputy, Kelechi Igwe, from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. In its ruling, the court held that the appeal lacked merit and that the cases cited are totally irrelevant to the matter brought before the court. The lead judge further pointed out that the removal of elected officials, in this case, Governor Dave Umahi and his deputy, lies in the hands of the legislature and must be in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended.
The Constitution of Nigeria has not provided that if a governor defects from the party that sponsored him into office to another party, he thereby loses his office. It is mere rascality that would make anyone think that it represents the position. You cannot go outside the Constitution of Nigeria to begin to read into it what does not exist there. So I'm not surprised that the Court of Appeal is in agreement with what the Supreme Court had earlier ruled, because the principle of stare decisis is to the effect that you have to follow an earlier judgment. Anybody who is doing anything beyond following the earlier judgment, with all due respect, is not doing the right thing.
The Court of Appeal had delivered its judgment, and to us, we get a copy of it and study it carefully and meet with our client and know the next step to take. To me, there is no contradiction. It is the court that saw and believed that there is contradiction that make that decision. To me, it is the findings of the court that there are contradictions, but to me and to the appellants, there's no contradiction. So we'll look and study the judgment carefully and know the next action to take.
Meanwhile, the governor of Ogun State has been reacting to the judgment of the appeal court which upheld the ruling of the Ebonyi High Court on his defection to the All Progressives Congress. The governor, who was a guest on our political program, Politics Today, describes the entire legal tussle as a test of democracy and the rule of law.
It is good for democracy. It is good for the Constitution, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which we also want to uphold when we were sworn in. So it has strengthened our democracy, and I think that it is, win-win for Nigerians.
So, I mean, of course, it's a legal tussle. And perhaps, are you anticipating that your opponent in the PDP might go to court to appeal this to the Supreme Court?
Well, I've continuously said that I cannot challenge the judgment of a court. I have respect for judiciary. Judgment of a court is judgment of a court and must be respected. But I can at all times speak to the Constitution I swore to uphold. If I show that I do not understand the Constitution of Nigeria, then I don't want to be a governor. And so I'm not afraid of that. And my confidence has always been in God and in our Constitution. Section 308 is very, very sacrosanct. And I don't think that anybody has the right to go and import what is not in the Constitution and they bring in. If you do that, then the democracy will be, at risk.
And two other stories. Following months of engagement with key stakeholders within Etiosa Lekki Ekpe area, Lekki Concession Company Limited has officially returned to tolling operations at the Ikoyi Link Bridge toll plaza. However, toll payment will not commence until the 16th of April 2022. Our correspondent Olu Phillips reports.
It didn't look like an unusual day, as is the characteristics around this axis, especially in the early hours of the day. The Lekki Plaza became a reference point after the incident of October 20th, 2020, and have been toll-free since then. But after a long holiday and freer vehicular movement, payment is resuming for any motorist intending to use this road. And we are here in Lagos. Very early in the day, our crew visited the Lekki Toll Plaza, following indications by the Lagos State Government that it is time to call off the holiday. With nothing untoward happening, we proceeded to the Ikoyi Link Bridge, another toll plaza under the control of the Lekki Concession Company, where the tolling is scheduled to commence.
There's no money to pay for toll gate. They should just forget about paying money in this toll gate. No justice, no toll gate. No justice, no toll gate. Maybe we need to get the government some patience to do the right thing, in my own opinion anyway. And I'm calling on the whole Lagosians to cooperate with the Lagos State Government. Let's get it right. That's the only way forward.
We had barely settled to do our work when these men attached to the Lekki Concession Company started working towards us. But unknown to them, we were already tuned into our morning flagship program, Sunrise, when the evasion by these men started.
They're destroying the cameras right now, yeah?
Hello, Mr. Man. Stop dragging my camera.
Soon, some police officers joined the fray, grabbing and squeezing our equipment and personnel. This is the face of the police officer who harassed Channels TV's correspondent Olu Phillips, stripping him of his pair of eyeglasses, his earpiece, and branded microphone, which he returned on the orders of a DSS personnel. While all of these sufficed, the managing director of the Lekki Concession Company was just across the road and perturbed by the acts of his men. He has since apologized to our crew over the incident. Tolling has effectively begun amidst mixed concerns, but payment will start in 15 days' time. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
You're watching Channels Television, your home for the news. In part two, after the break, President Muhammadu Buhari receives Microsoft team at Presidential Villa, says Nigeria is poised for more investments in digital technology. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Another Kaduna community under terrorist attack. 2 people killed, many kidnapped in Ngwa-Bulus village of Chukwunloku government area of the state. Appeal court upholds defection of Imo State Governor David Mahi and his deputy to the All Progressives Congress, dismisses suit seeking their sack from office. Lekki Concession Company resumes operations at the Ikoyi Bridge over a year after closure. Channel's television correspondent harassed while filming resumption. And Russia accuses Ukraine of attacking oil depot in Russian city of Belgorod as Kremlin says attacks put peace talks at risk. And let's head to Abuja, where Terry Kumi is standing by with more stories. Hello, Terry. It's another Friday.
Well, yes, it is, Millicent. Good evening. President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria is poised to welcome more initiatives and investments in digital technology and is appreciating Microsoft for the $200 million African Development Center located in Lagos. The president was speaking at the State House in Abuja while receiving the president of the Microsoft Corporation, Mr. Brad Smith, in the company of the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Mr. Issa Pantami. Our State House correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports that the president had earlier met with the Qatari ambassador to Nigeria, as well as the president of Chad.
It was a busy day for President Muhammadu Buhari, who started the day meeting with the president of Chad, Lieutenant General Mohamed Idris Deby. Next, the president welcomed the ambassador of the state of Qatar to Nigeria, Dr. Ali bin Ghanem Al-Hajri. Both meetings were held behind closed doors, and State House correspondents were not briefed after both meetings. Finally, the president received the president of the Microsoft Corporation, Mr. Brad Smith, in the company of the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, who noted that the Microsoft-built African Development Center in Lagos has trained many Nigerians on digital skills.
Microsoft, in partnership with the federal government, has so far trained over 320,000 Nigerians on the digital skills, and this training is ongoing. And they also have so many initiatives in the pipeline to support our citizens to build their skills towards economic development, job creation, and many more.
The Microsoft boss pledges to continue its work in Nigeria as the country continues to provide an enabling environment.
I think by creating these kinds of products, I hope we are creating jobs that will give talented young people who study, who grow up here in Nigeria, the opportunity to help build a technology industry that continues to grow each and every year here.
President Muhammadu Buhari, on his part, says the launch of the Nigerian National Broadband Plan was precisely to create an enabling environment for companies like Microsoft to succeed in connectivity initiatives such as the African Development Center.
I have been informed that the African Development Center in Nigeria is Microsoft's first engineering hub in Africa, as the current investment stands at about $200 million United States dollars. I have also been informed of Microsoft's skilling initiative that aims to train 5 million students and provide 27,000 jobs over the next 3 years. These initiatives are commendable, and I urge you to expand them and continue to prioritize Nigeria as you roll out your global initiatives.
According to President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria is willing to partner with Microsoft to make the country the epicenter for innovative, emerging technology in Africa. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Some stakeholders have disagreed on a proposed law to regulate the payment of house rent within the Federal Capital Territory. The Senate has been working on a bill to stop landlords in the nation's capital from demanding yearly advance rent from tenants. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
The Senate Committee on Lands, Housing and Urban Development is holding this public hearing to get inputs from critical stakeholders on the bill to regulate the mode of payment of rent on residential apartments and office spaces in the Federal Capital Territory. The proposed legislation seeks to reduce advance payment for house rents for new tenants to 3 months and thereafter proceed on monthly payment schedule. According to the sponsor of the bill, the proposed law will make life less stressful for low-income earners in the FCT, as it warns that yearly house rent payments breed corruption and huge inequality.
I have a conviction that tenants in Abuja are worse pressed, and some of the bills that people pay are bills that even though some people can pay, even those who are paying cannot justify the means at which they got what they are paying for.
The Nigeria Labour Congress applauds the bill, noting that it is a reasonable intervention for the weak and vulnerable in the country. However, the Estate Surveyors and Valuers Registration Board of Nigeria opposes the enactment of a law, arguing that it does not protect the interest of some critical stakeholders in the housing sector.
We are pleased with the content and intent of this bill. It is common knowledge that landlords, almost without exception, continue to take advantage of hapless tenants, majority of whom cannot afford the indulgences of such landlords. Section 1 of the bill provides that the bill is applicable to within a federal capital territory. But it is interesting to note that most of the people that the bill seeks to protect are not residents of FCT. They situate in Maraba, Kano, and all villages in Nasarawa State.
The Senate committee is expected to collate all the views at this hearing and present a report to the Senate at plenary.
The federal government has inaugurated and handed over to beneficiaries 68 housing units comprising 24 units in condominiums, 28 units 2 bedrooms and 16 units 3-bedroom bungalows under the federal government's National Housing Program. During the inauguration of the project, the Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuba, who represented the president, says the project is one of the projects undertaken by the current administration in phases since 2016. The president was represented by the Minister of State, Emeka Nwajuba.
This is the newly completed 68-unit housing scheme under the federal government's National Housing Program, comprising 24 units in condominium, 28 units 2-bedroom and 16 units 3-bedroom bungalows in Imo State. Residents from different local government areas in the state and top government officials gather in Owerri, the state capital, for the commissioning of the project and the arrival of the Minister of State for Education, who is representing President Muhammadu Buhari, signals the commencement of the event. The National Housing Program, implemented by the Ministry of Works and Housing, is an initiative born out of the Buhari-led administration's desire to provide affordable housing for the citizenry.
As we head towards the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure of office, I'm happy to also say that we enter a season of completion when many projects such as this begin to bear fruits.
The overall economic value chain arising from the housing construction activities is mostly beneficial to the Nigerian youth. The ministry has successfully constructed housing schemes under this program in 35 states of the Federation.
For the federal government, it's a promise kept and proof of its commitment to providing better living conditions for Nigerians.
The progressive ideals of our government seeks to achieve one primary objective, which is to improve the human condition. This housing estate has achieved that in many ways.
Keys to some of the apartments are handed over to some members of Nigeria's Super Eagles team, who won the Nations Cup in Tunisia in 1994. This, according to the government, is in fulfillment of its promise to give each of the team members a house.
Today, the promise that was made to us was fulfilled. I am so glad, I'm so thankful to God. I'm thankful to the government of Nigeria also.
The federal government says the National Housing Program, which was initiated in 2016 to address the nation's housing deficit, is coming to fruition with the completion and inauguration of housing schemes across the country.
Meanwhile, the federal government says it is targeting the end of 2022 for the commissioning of the second Niger bridge. The Minister for Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, made the revelation at the 7th edition of the African Road Builders Conference in Abuja. Mr. Fashola explains that the project is now at 91% completion.
I am able to report that apart from the Trans-African Highway No. 7, Nigeria is also connected by the Trans-African Highway No. 2 from Algiers to Lagos and the Trans-African Highway No. 8 from Lagos to Mombasa. The east to west crossing of Nigeria across the second River Niger Bridge, which will be finished this year, is a major investment by Nigeria on the Lagos-Mombasa Trans-African Highway, as is the Enugu-Abakaliki to Umfung Highway. The 375-kilometer Abuja to Kano that is now under construction is Nigeria's major part of the Trans-African Highway No. 2 from Algiers to Lagos. Apart from these Trans-African Highway connections, we are rebuilding, expanding, or replacing strategic highways and bridges across our country. They have been a major boost for the growth of our economy, keeping people at work, driving a supply value chain, stimulating productivity at quarries, cement factories, steel factories, and petroleum products from lubricants, fuel, and bitumen.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation confirms plans to become a fully limited liability company from July 1 this year. That's on Business News. Join us again.
Welcome back to Lagos. MTN Foundation has awarded the sum of 200,000 naira yearly as scholarships to 370 students who excelled in their studies in Nigerian universities, polytechnics and colleges of education. The MTN Foundation believes the scholarships will serve as launch pads for Nigeria's brightest minds to attain greater heights.
In line with its corporate social responsibility and empowerment programs, MTN Foundation awards full scholarships to 370 students who excelled in Nigerian tertiary institutions. A breakdown of the beneficiaries show that 300 were from science and technology, 60 are visually impaired, and 10 students of the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination.
It means a lot to me because there are some of us that came from a poor background, or some of us are orphans. You understand? Some of us, we struggle to go to school. So this thing is a really right step in the right direction.
Back then in school, the scholarship was a very important, it was beneficiary because I'm an architecture student back in school. And for architecture students, you need a laptop to be able to function effectively. And I used the money to get the laptop, and that enhanced my performance academically.
MTN Foundation says the program seeks to identify, recognize and empower high-performing students in the country's tertiary institutions.
We don't just give them the scholarships, we actually train them. So we have ecosystem partners, tech giants like Google, Microsoft. We partnered with a project management institute, and we're giving them, a new lease of life. Hoping that they'll take up the certification opportunities, and definitely it puts them at a step ahead in the labor market by the time they're out there.
It's a scholarship that, for as long as you remain at a particular level, excellence level, you continue to enjoy the fruit of that scholarship. You know what that does? Such students, you cannot find them joining those who want to go on strike or go and rattle the vice chancellor. They first why they are there.
Since its inception of the program, MTN Foundation confirms it has invested over 3 billion naira in scholarship awards to over 4,000 students, including the visually impaired, across tertiary institutions in Nigeria.
On company news, as part of giving back to society, Coca-Cola Bottling Company, in collaboration with Whitefield Foundation, has been working together towards empowering young people across the country with entrepreneurial skills. This time in Kano State, 20,000 persons from different local government areas and communities are benefiting from the initiative.
The Kano State Coronation Hall is filled to capacity as youths and women from different communities across the state gather to witness an empowerment program championed by the Coca-Cola Bottling Company Foundation in partnership with Whitefield Foundation. The initiative is aimed at empowering youths across the country with entrepreneurial skills and funds to enable them become self-reliant.
This is just one of those programs where we do hope that what we have been achieved by the Whitefield Foundation, we want to come here 1 year down the line and see the beautiful stories that each and every one of you seated here have to tell us in terms of how the program has contributed and making a difference in your families and the different communities you represent.
The process of selecting recipients was painstaking, and in the end, 20,000 beneficiaries emerged from Kano State.
Some of them were going to be given 200,000. We are going to monitor what they're doing. We're going to ensure that their business is registered, is NAFDAC enabled, and we want to see if they themselves can become entrepreneurs that can take this forward.
The State Commissioner for Youth and Sports is quite pleased with the initiative.
I assure you that Kano State government is committed to constructive programs on women and youth, as well as making frantic effort to carry themselves along as partners in programs.
Won 200,000 naira.
Beneficiaries are also appreciative of the gesture.
I'm really happy, alhamdulillah. That's all I can say. Thank you, Whitefield. Thank you, Coca-Cola and Kano State government. Thank you very much.
I plan with this grant that is going to give me, since I'm working under someone, I will try to start my own communication center with such grant.
Take up Coca-Cola during your iftar directly.
The organizers believe the responsibility for empowering youths should not be left to government.
We have come to make this intervention to ensure that we support not just the Kano State government, but also the federal government of Nigeria in realizing its objectives of creating jobs for young people in Nigeria.
The Coca-Cola Foundation and Whitefield Foundation initiative aims at creating life skills and opportunities for youths in Lagos, Edo, Imo, and Kano states, as well as the FCT.
And for more business stories, here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited will, from July the 1st this year, become a fully limited liability company whose operations will be fully run in compliance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020. The Group Managing Director of the National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Mele Kiare, made this known at the launch of its Electronic Materials Management Systems, a platform created by the National Petroleum Investment Management Services to ensure an efficient and effective tracking of inventory in the oil and gas sector. He mentioned that the NNPC, in partnership with security agencies and other stakeholders in the sector, have started operations to curtail the activities of vandals who are sabotaging oil installations in the country.
There's massive disruption to our operations as a result of activities of bandits and criminals along our pipelines in the Niger Delta area. This has brought down our production to levels as low as we have never seen before. Today we are being less than 1.5 million barrels per day simply because some criminals decided that they should have some infractions on our pipeline. And that clearly is the biggest form of business disruption that we're facing today, and this kind of engagement, the certification that we have today around our system and process should be able to respond to this. And part of the response is to bring in the best framework possible to contain this situation. And I'm happy to tell us all here that Enormous work is going on between us and relevant government security agencies, our partners, particularly those on the corridors that are impacted, and also the community members. And I'm very, very optimistic that within the next 2 to 3 weeks, very, very measurable outcomes will come up. Which is clearly impacted by the energy transition journey. Our company will fully a Kama company today, will transit fully by the 1st of July, so that we're now entirely a different company that will be governed by the provisions of the Community and Allied Matters Act, and also the Petroleum Industry Act, and all other legislations that are applicable to every other company that is operating in this space.
Nigeria's stock market failed to sustain the rebounds recorded in 2 consecutive sessions as a new month and quarter begins. Will Ibong tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. It's the first trading day in April and stocks are staring in the jaws of the bear. Equities dropped steeply at the close of today's session, down 0.26% and shedding about 58 billion naira. The continued volatility comes as markets brace for the next round of earnings season. However, the banking counter is in the green zone today, taking a breather from losses. Its index was up marginally by 0.02%. Zenith Bank, which had been trading at the basement for 4 consecutive days now, has managed to claw its way back to the main floor. The oil and gas index, which contributed largely to the pullback in today's trading session, fell sharply by 3.07%. And this is no thanks to Total Energies, which shared 26 naira 40 kobo off its share price today to close at 238 naira 50 kobo from its opening levels of 264 naira 90 kobo. Consumer goods was a no-show as well. Markets sell off to begin a new quarter. But what will first quarter earnings season, just days away, have in store? Or is market already priced in? And if early looks are any indication, we could be in for a rough ride. But let's keep tracking. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Will Ibang. Back to you.
And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Shoboale. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Teniola. The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs has announced that Ramadan will start in the country Saturday, tomorrow, April the 2nd, 2022. President General of the Council and Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, announced this today in a broadcast in Sokoto State.
Citing reports of the new moon to herald in the holy month of Ramadan were received from various Islamic leaders across the country, and we duly approved and admitted the messages sent to us to confirm the sighting of the new moon to bring in the holy month of Ramadan, 1443. Therefore, today, 1st April 2022, marks the end of Shaban 1443, and tomorrow, inshallah, we will start fasting in accordance with the Sharia.
We'll go over now to Ogun State, where Governor Dakpa Abiodun has signed an executive order for women inclusion and equal economic growth opportunity, which also gives women a 35% inclusion in politics in the state. This was part of the launch of the Nigeria for Women project and upscale of the Okowo Dapo scheme held at the Moshood Abiola Stadium in the state capital. The governor said these initiatives are imperative in order to improve the economic and financial well-being of women for family and socio-economic development of the state and Nigeria in general.
To household expenses, buy land.
Women, no doubt, are regarded as one of the most vulnerable groups in society, attributed most times to social inequalities occasioned by religious, cultural and other factors.
Through the oversight visits.
To bridge the gap of economic prosperity within this group in Ogun State, various initiatives have been put in place to address the obvious challenges such as the launch of an empowerment program to improve their economic well-being.
We are also disbursing to 12 groups.
The Nigeria for Women project's launch is attended by the Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, the World Bank Country Director, wife of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, First Lady from Southwest states, traditional rulers, among other dignitaries.
More socio-economic and political wherewithal for women. At the macro level, it will go a long way in reducing poverty in the family, reducing gender-based violence and abuse in the society, and further strengthening our economy. Therefore, empowering our women is not a favor to the agenda. It is in fact one of the most viable approaches towards achieving sustainable economic development.
Beneficiaries drawn from the 3 senatorial districts of the state are presented with sewing machines, freezers, tricycles, grinding machines and cash grants. The Minister of Women Affairs and the Country Director of the World Bank laud the initiative.
The beneficiaries from the 3 local government areas of Ogun State, whose business plans have been approved, will start to receive payment today. The total number of beneficiaries are 4,517 beneficiaries, with Yewa North local government having 1,213 beneficiaries.
The Chief of Staff to the President, who represents him at this occasion, believes it fits in with the federal government's efforts to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty.
The success of women is our success, and together we shall surely overcome all the challenges of development, the challenges of security, the challenges of unemployment, and the challenges of moving our country along to be one of the leading nations in the world in terms of equality for women, in terms of shared prosperity, shared development, inclusive development, in which the women have to play a leading role.
The event also witnesses the donation of 5 brand new buses to market women in the state.
And outside Nigeria, the International Committee of the Red Cross has postponed an attempt to evacuate civilians from the besieged city of Mariupol, saying arrangements and conditions made it impossible to proceed. Meanwhile, Ukraine's foreign ministry says it cannot confirm or deny whether its forces attacked an oil depot in Russia. For more on the situation in Ukraine and other international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia says Ukrainian helicopters have attacked an oil depot in Belgorod, a Russian city just north of Ukraine. Security camera footage shows a bright light flashing in the sky near the fuel depot. Dmitry Peskov said the alleged strikes do not create comfortable conditions for peace talks. Kiev has so far not claimed responsibility for the attack. Russian troops occupying the former nuclear power plant at Chernobyl have left. According to Ukraine's state nuclear company Energoatom, staff at the plant said there are currently no outsiders at the site. The announcement appears to confirm reports by senior US defense officials on Wednesday of a withdrawal. Russia has said it will not cut off gas exports to Europe yet in a standoff over its demand to be paid in rubles. The Kremlin said payments for deliveries after the 1st of April are due in the second half of the month and May. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree on Thursday stating buyers must pay in rubles through Russian bank accounts from today. The country is seeking to shore up the ruble as Western sanctions over the Ukraine war bite.
De facto, there will be no change for recipients of Russian gas who pay for these shipments. In any case, they are buying rubles for the currency stipulated in the contracts.
At least 8 people have died and 20 others have been injured in a mine accident in Serbia. State TV reported part of the Coca coal mine pit collapsed, releasing the methane gas inside and trapping miners. Authorities said it took place shortly after 4 a.m. local time on Friday, and that an official investigation is underway to determine what happened. The Coca mine, about 200 kilometers southeast of Belgrade, has had several serious accidents since it started operating in the early 1900s. 2 South Korean Air Force planes have collided in mid-air during a training exercise, killing 4 pilots. The crash happened around 6 kilometers south of the aeroplane base in the southeastern city of Sacheon. A total of 130 troops, 95 police officers and 60 firefighters, as well as 3 helicopters, have begun a search at the crash site. Sri Lankan police have imposed a curfew and fired tear gas at demonstrators protesting food, fuel and power shortages outside the president's house. Agitated protesters stormed through barricades and were accused of setting fire to a bus. The country's president blamed the events on extremist elements. Sri Lanka is in the middle of a foreign exchange crisis that has crippled its economy. Faced with 13-hour power cuts and a lack of fuel, essential food items and medicines, public anger has reached a new high. The International Committee of the Red Cross says efforts to deliver vital medical aid into the war-torn Ethiopian region of Tigray remain limited. This is despite a humanitarian truce agreed between the government and rebel forces last week. The ICRC has been allowed to airlift medical supplies into Tigray since January this year, after months of restriction, but it says none of its aid trucks have moved to the region as roads continue to have security and access issues. 38 flights carrying desperately required medical supplies have arrived in Tigray over the last 3 months. Climate change protesters have climbed on top of oil tankers and blocked their way across Britain as part of a campaign to force the government to end its reliance on fossil fuels. Extinction Rebellion, which caused days of traffic chaos in central London 3 years ago, and another group, Just Stop Oil, blocked refineries around London, Birmingham and Southampton. ExxonMobil said it is temporarily suspending operations at 3 oil terminals in Britain due to what it described as a series of small protests. 6 people have so far been arrested. And the main producer at the Oscars has said police were ready to arrest Will Smith after the actor slapped comedian Chris Rock on stage.
Oh, wow!
In his first interview since Sunday's event, Will Packer said officers asked Rock if he wanted them to take action, but the star was very dismissive of the offer.
And to protect people, and to be a river to my people.
Smith has apologised for striking Rock over a joke about his wife Jada, while Oscars organisers and Packer have come under scrutiny for their responses. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The draw ceremony for the 2022 FIFA World Cup to be hosted by Qatar has been conducted in Doha today. The host Qatar, Ecuador, African champion Senegal and the Netherlands are in Group A, while England, Iran, the United States and the European playoff winner were drawn in Group B. Group C has 2-time World Cup winners Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico and Poland. Group D comprises of defending champions France, Denmark, Tunisia and the Intercontinental Playoff 1 winner. 4-time winners Germany, Spain, Japan and an Intercontinental Playoff 2 winner are all in Group E, while Group F has Belgium, Canada, Croatia and Morocco. In Group G, 5-time winners Brazil will battle against Serbia, Switzerland and the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, while Group H comprises of Portugal, Ghana's Black Stars, Uruguay and Korea Republic. Ivorian legend Didier Drogba has called for the expansion of the World Cup while supporting Arsene Wenger's suggestion for a biennial World Cup. He believes the expansion will allow more teams from the continent to participate at the global showpiece. The former Chelsea striker also tipped Senegal as one of the sides to watch in Qatar after their performance at the African Nations Cup and World Cup qualifiers.
How can you have a lot of chances of winning the World Cup when you only have five teams in how many? 5 out of how many teams? I think 32 or 42. So when you look at the math, it's almost impossible. So we need to have more teams, more African teams in the competition, which will give us a bit more chances to go through the quarterfinal or semi-final or the final.
Well, Ajax manager Erik ten Hag has refused to rule out the possibility of joining Manchester United FC and added that he hopes the Dutch Eredivisie side will understand if he decides to take the next step in his managerial career. Ten Hag and United have held official talks, which were described as very positive, over the Dutchman becoming the Premier League side's next manager. Following that interview, United have informally been gathering information around Ten Hag, including a potential compensation figure should they choose to appoint him. And that's a wrap on sports news. I'm Ayo Tunde Balu.
And the main news again. Another Kaduna community, Ungwa Bulus village of Chukun local government area, has been attacked, leaving 2 persons dead and many kidnapped. Also today, an appeal court sitting in Enugu upheld the defection of the governor of Ogun State, Dave Umahi, and his deputy to the APC, dismissed suit seeking their sack from office. That's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Stay safe. Have a good night.